My name's Chris, and I'm probably not your dad. But you should listen anyway, at least to this one. Most people say that they want to change for the better, until change asks them to do something uncomfortable. In today's video, we're going to look at one path to changing your life for the better, and hopefully for good. But before we get into the specifics, I want you to know I'm not blowing smoke for the sake of views. I'm going to hit you with something that I wasn't 100% sure I was going to share on this channel, well, ever. But I need you to understand why I take this stuff so seriously. And a quick note, this is not medical advice, this is my personal experience. For several years, I had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol. I'm not proud of it, and I'm not making excuses. I own my mistakes. I own what it became. I owned what I let myself become. Then one day, I simply had enough. I didn't want to escape anymore. I didn't like where I was, not mentally, not emotionally, not physically. I knew it was time for a change. For years, I had tried to drown my demons, and I found out they could swim better than I could. So I quit that day. Not tomorrow, not someday in the future. I quit that day. There were no exceptions. There were no excuses. Change doesn't start when life gets easier. In fact, it's quite the opposite. Change happens when you start taking yourself seriously, when you start owning your decisions, when you start owning your actions, and when you want to make a change. It all comes from in here. All of it. Last year was probably a really good time to change, was probably a really good time to get your life together. Today's a really good option too. Most people aren't stuck. They're just waiting for permission. If that's you today, consider this your permission slip. And I know what some people might say. Oh, that's easy for you to say. Excuse me? Easy is not how I would describe it. I had to learn new routines. I had to get into new habits. Man, I had to learn how to sleep again. Easy is not the right word. Needed? Yeah. It was a whole lifestyle change. What am I going to do with all this sober time on my hands? Drinking like I did robbed me of my family time. It left me grumpy most mornings and just kind of in a fog until I could get some food in my system, maybe midday. Quitting gave all of that back to me, and maybe a little more. And there was something unexpected too. Something that made it all worth it, quite honestly. Let me tell you something about addiction, man. You can choose your vices. You do not get to choose your consequences. Let that one sink in. But it doesn't just have to be addiction, right? You skip leg day, you're going to pay for it later. You don't get enough sleep, you're going to pay for it later. You avoid those hard conversations that you know you should be having, you're going to pay for it later. That's part of something I call the law of interest due. The problem with waiting until later is you never know what the interest will be. Because in a very real way, you can pay now or you can pay later with interest. And it's a compounding effect. You never know if you're going to have enough money when the bill comes with interest. Here's another part of this whole equation as well. You pay for change, but you also pay for not changing. You see, a year from now, 365 days will have already passed. The question is, are you willing to put in the work to be a better you a year from now? Change requires effort. Change requires a price to pay. But so does doing nothing. So why not give yourself the advantage? Change doesn't necessarily mean stopping the bad habits. I mean, that's a great place to start. But you also want to incorporate better habits, newer habits. I've seen this kind of change even in my own family. My son used to be a little guy, and now, well, take a look. After years of hard work, dude looks like an Olympian. And I'm not just saying that because he's my favorite fella. I mean, look at it again. That kind of change is not an overnight success. It requires dedication. But you know what can be an overnight success? Your decision to get your act together. So if you're ready for change, you don't need to prove anything to me. You need to prove it to yourself. Let's take a quick inventory of how you're showing up for yourself. Do you make your bed in the morning or whenever it is that you get up? Do you do the dishes or are there a bunch of them piled up in the sink? Did you clean your room? Is it a mess? Listen, this isn't a laundry list of things you need to do. I'm simply telling you that chaos does not favor success. And I can remember complaining to my wife for years that I just want a life that I don't feel like I need a constant vacation from. Maybe you can relate. So I'm going to tell you the same thing she told me. Okay, who's stopping you? Damn. So I've come to the realization that I have an addictive and probably compulsive personality. Again, that's not a medical opinion. That's the observation I've made after living in my head my entire life and seeing the actions and reactions and the choices that I've made based on what goes on in my head. Look, I'm not blaming anyone, except, maybe myself. But we shouldn't be surprised if we trip over the same thing in our path every time if we don't move the object out of the way or take a different path altogether. There are options in this life. If your car breaks and you don't know how to fix it, what do? You find someone who does know how to fix it, or at least knows more about cars than you do. And maybe that's what's going on here. I can't get your life together, but I can give you some tools and maybe some strategies to help point you in the right direction. But here's something that may only apply to a handful of you. And if this is you, I need you to hear me. And I think you need to hear me too. Sometimes we feel like we're not worthy of good things. Sometimes we feel like, why change? I'm not worth it. And if that's you, that's a heavy load to carry. And I'm giving you permission to drop those bags anytime you want. If that is you, I strongly recommend that you read this book right here. The book is called Psycho-Cybernetics, and it was written in 1960. So some of the language might be a little outdated, but the principles are there. It will help you reframe how you look at yourself, and it will help you set yourself up for success. There's also a really good summary I found. I put a link to that video in the description. It's not my channel, but this guy gets it right. And just because you're in a bad spot right now doesn't mean you're a loser. Winners lose most of the time. Do you know how batting averages work? Most of the books that I recommend on this channel read like terms and conditions. They're not particularly entertaining, but they're also not supposed to be. If you want to know how to get your together, these are the type of books you need to read. There's plenty of entertainment out there. This is about growth. And let me tell you something else. You need to look at these kind of activities as investments in yourself because you're worth the investment. Change can be uncomfortable, but so can staying in the situation or in the state that you know you need to move out of. So here's permission. All those years, all those heavy bags that you've been carrying, maybe even for someone else, you can drop them right there. I know, sometimes that's easier said than done, but I do know this beyond a shadow of a doubt. The miracles, the change that you're looking for isn't off in the future somewhere. It's waiting for you in the work, in the decision that's sitting right in front of you. We can get started whenever you want, whenever you're ready. Until next time, may your best days be ahead of you.